Welcome to the Life After Cancer podcast, made possible by the National Lottery Community Fund. I'm Steph, founder of Life After Cancer. I've been through cancer myself, and I know that when treatment ends, life doesn't always return to normal. Here we talk about the emotional, practical, and often invisible parts of life after treatment through lived experience and professional insight. These conversations share real experiences and perspectives. They're not medical advice and can't replace support from your healthcare team. If you're navigating life after cancer, supporting someone you care about, or working in cancer care, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Sophia, how are you doing? Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good.
Wonderful. So to begin, it would be really wonderful just to hear a little bit about yourself, your cancer experience, and where you are now in your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I was diagnosed in May 2024. I'd had symptoms through pregnancy, but being pregnant, it was sort of like described as being sort of pregnancy symptoms. Then I went to the doctor when my little one was 3 months old, and they first told me it was IBS and stuff. I still didn't sit right anyway, so I kind of pushed a little bit further and got all the right tests. And then anyway, eventually I was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer. So I had kind of primary cancer in the bowel, and then 7 or 8 mets to the liver. That was when my little one was 5 months old. So kind of plunged, very quickly into sort of treatment. I think had surgery to start, and then chemo, radiotherapy, and then liver resection, bowel resection, and then a final surgery to kind of sew everything up again. And yeah, it was like a kind of whirlwind of sort of 15 months. Very fortunately, everything went really well. My scans have been clear since then. And I'm on a kind of active surveillance. So I have scans every 3 months, which are coming up actually this week. So I'm just closely monitored now and watched from then on.
Wonderful. So where would you say you're in your post-cancer journey? What's happening for you right now?
You have the sort of treatment, which is very, very structured, very planned. You're sort of in this kind of, fighting cancer mode. It all feels very much almost like a battle. Everything is planned. Everything is, you're focused on the next appointment, the next surgery, the next step in the process. I think when that ended, I think I've been in this kind of transition period probably for the last sort of 9 months, where I'd say I just maybe kind of coming out of that, when everything finished, suddenly my days didn't have like a million appointments in them. And I think I wasn't the same person that I was before, but I didn't even know that I wasn't the same person, so I sort of went back to doing all the things that I was doing before. And then that didn't quite feel right. And I think it's taken me probably at least 9 months. I probably said still on that journey of sort of adjusting, okay, this is my new life. This is sort of what life looks like now for me. It's a journey, I guess I say, it still continues.
So you finished treatment in spring 2025.
Yeah.
What did you imagine finishing treatment would be like for you? And what was the reality?
I think I thought it would be magical. I made this like list of things I wanted to do when treatment finished, everything from taking a walk in Hampstead Heath to going to Cape Town to doing a high rocks to, there was lots of things on the list. I think I've done probably none of those. And I think, the reality was actually, as I sort of mentioned, this kind of identity shift of sort of, finding my way. Actually, life looked very, very different. My energy levels were different. I still had, quite a few side effects lingering on from all the different treatments. And I think I thought I would be this kind of eternally grateful person. I'd been so lucky. Not everyone is that fortunate that they have, such kind of particularly from like stage 4 cancer, have such great results from all the treatment, and I've been so lucky. I think this feeling of gratitude, and everyone always talks to you about it, like, oh, everyone else is also very grateful that, you've had the treatment. And actually, yes, I was grateful, and there have been some amazing kind of shifts in my perspectives and how I appreciate life and, time with my kids and things. But, it was it's not a 24/7 thing. I don't feel grateful all the time. I still have, moments where I feel scared or sad or, grieve the life that I had before. And I think that I sort of didn't really anticipate that at all. I think I sort of thought I would just step back into my old life. And I'd almost been clinging to that old life, remembering the things I used to do and looking forward to doing them again. And actually, it didn't look like that at all. Again, some things were a lot better, as I said, like perspectives and, that quality time with my kids felt better. I felt stronger as a mom and, able to appreciate life more. But there were also bits that were just different. And I had to learn that, I think, for myself and go through that.
Yeah, rather than having someone tell you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So this episode is about the things we don't always say out loud after cancer treatment. What comes to mind for you when you think about that?
I think like the first thing that comes to my mind is just the phrase like, I'm scared. I think we very rarely say that out loud. I don't think I've probably even ever said that to, even my closest friends. I think we almost glamorize this being strong. And, through kind of treatment, everyone always said to me, oh, you're so strong. Like, oh, you're such an inspiration. You're doing so well. And, all this stuff. And you kind of thrive on it in a way. It kind of does feed into this kind of, I don't know, not ego, but something. It makes you feel good.
Did it energize you?
Yeah, I think it did. I think I lived, I almost wanted to be strong, not just, to kind of have that experience. And I was, strong through treatment and things, but actually, we glamorize it a little bit. Actually, I think there's not a lot of space sometimes to say like, actually, I'm scared. Someone says, how are you? You don't naturally reply with, oh, well, actually, I'm really scared because, this is all sort of going on. The natural thing is to say, oh, I'm doing good, concentrate on the good things. So for me, that's the first thing I think of, like, I'm scared. There have been plenty of moments, through treatment, post-treatment, like, after cancer, like where actually I am really scared. But I don't think we say it that much.
Have you said that to anyone around you?
I'm trying to think even if I've said that to my husband. I mean, I must have said that to my husband at times. But I probably less times than I can count on one hand. I'd say. Both of us were we're both very logical, matter of fact people. So when we had, when I got my diagnosis, I'd say neither of us were in floods of tears or, like there was no real almost melodrama around it, even though it was such a big thing. We were like, right, okay, what's next? Like, what do we need to do? Okay, this has happened. Okay, we need to organise childcare for the kids. And, my little one, she was 5 months, so we needed some help with that regard. And we planned. You
were very practical about it.
Yeah, we were practical about it. And that's, I think, probably both our ways of coping with that. But, I can't think of a time where he's turned to me either and said, I'm scared, because, it's a lot for him too. And but my husband's probably the only person I've ever said that to, I'd say.
And what do you believe is the reason you might have stopped yourself saying that to other people around you?
I think some of it is social etiquette, right? Like some of it is just, not all the conversations you have with people are that deep. Or, the how are you, it's not a natural progression. And then part of it is, you don't want to be a burden to other people in a way, I did rely on other people a lot through kind of my treatment, but you almost try and shelter them a little bit in a way from sometimes the tough realities of it, particularly for me, like if I think of my kids, my husband, my mum, my siblings, I didn't want to put my emotions on everyone else. I've also always been very independent. So that felt really hard to then rely on other people, particularly from an emotional perspective. Physically, I did have to rely on other people. There was really no choice, but emotionally. But I think it is really hard to say those kind of things, I'm scared or actually I'm not doing okay. People want to hear you almost say I'm doing really well. They want to hear that. It makes them feel good. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, I think there's two pieces to that, aren't there? That the first is we want to protect those that we're close to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we think, oh goodness, I'm already going through this. They're probably worrying so much about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I want to put more?
Exactly.
And the other is wanting to keep high level with all of it. It's
Yeah.
going, no. Well, you said you were quite practical. So, okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to keep on top of this. It's all going to be very top line.
Yeah.
We're just going to get to the end.
Yeah.
And, this is our plan of action. We just need to crack on and get on with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And obviously there's, like you said, the British etiquette.
Yes,
How are you? I'm fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything's going to plan. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When do we ever get to that part of the conversation where we can truly say what's going on for us and feel that we're in a safe space to open up? And sometimes we don't need people to fix it either.
Yeah,
do we? We just want to go, this is going on. Don't worry. I don't expect you to come along and have a solution for me.
And sometimes, and I know people do their best. People generally are well-meaning and trying to help. Yeah. But sometimes people's responses aren't that helpful, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. I remember voicing something after treatment, and and I can't remember who it was, and they were like, "Oh, at least you're alive." I'm like, "Well, yes, I am alive, but I am allowed to complain that actually, I have neuropathy as a result. That was one of the side effects. It's really bothering me." Like, and obviously it was a well-meaning comment, but once you have sort of multiple of those experiences, you almost then shut down a little bit. You don't necessarily want to share because sometimes what you're hearing back is actually more harmful than and it's hard for people who haven't had cancer or seen the cancer journey to understand. It is hard to find the right thing to say, and I completely understand that.
I think a lot of people don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. And I know I've been in that situation with people and friends in different situations, so I do understand. But yes, sometimes even when you want to open up and say the tricky things, it's you sort of hold back a little bit, I think.
What might be the top 10 things that you wish you could have sent to friends and family but you didn't?
That I could have said to friends and family. Ooh.
Bit of a quick fire,
Yeah. If I was being really blunt, I'd be like, I don't want sympathy. I don't want you to be. I don't want to be coddled. I just want support. I want you to be there. If it was like to my friends, I'd be like, I don't want a WhatsApp that says, "Hey, how are you doing? How's it going?" I appreciate the sentiment and thing, but you either need to be there and be part of the journey, be present, or me telling you, me answering that question is helping you more than it's helping me, and I don't have the energy right now to kind of do that, to support you. I need enough energy, all my energy, to help myself. But equally, people who message you, I had a friend who messaged me every single day kind of around 7 p.m. just said, thinking of you, that was amazing, really, really supportive.
Because and there's no, it doesn't give you a job to reply
exactly to. And she said from the beginning, like, no need to reply, I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you. That was amazing. Don't over promise and then like under deliver. At the beginning everyone's like, oh, let me make food for your little one, or let me help, or whatever. Actually it's a really grueling kind of 15 months for me. Sometimes longer. If you can't be there, don't promise at the beginning that you're going to do things, and then sort of all that support dies out very, very slowly, which I understand, but it's frustrating. What else would I say to friends and family if I was like being blunt? Stop focusing on my look so much. Like, people are obsessed with how you look, like telling you look well, whether you've lost weight, gained weight through the process, your hair's growing back, little things like that, which again I understand and are supportive, and there are probably times I've appreciated the comments, but having everyone comment on it all the time can be a lot. It makes me almost like sort of focused on it too, which it's the least interesting thing really of everything about me, I hope. But, and I get it, those physical signs of, how you're doing, but how you're doing on the inside is not always reflective of, how you're doing on the outside. What else would I say? I'd say talk to me about cancer. Like, I want to talk about it because it's a huge part of my life. It's not something I can completely ignore and just have regular conversations. It is going to come up, so be comfortable with that. If I bring it up, feel free to bring it up yourself. I find it odd when I have like whole, I'd meet up with people and they just wouldn't ever mention it at all. And I get it. That's perhaps how they what they think might be the right thing to do. But it's very hard for me to, for something that impacts my life so greatly, to not ever mention it. And I'm guilty of kind of playing down cancer too, right? If I meet someone new, for instance, I don't really know whether to say well, I've had cancer. At what point in the conversation do you drop that in? And even when I do drop it in, eventually after, perhaps some time, I say it casually, as if it's like a casual thing. I play it down. You do somehow play it down. So I also feed into people then making these comments about, sort of more superficial things. And
let's pull it together, because you've listed some of those things you just wish you could have said out loud in those moments. But I hear why you wouldn't have done that is to protect your relationships. If you're thinking not about protecting those relationships, and we come back to that one thing you just wish you could have said out loud because it would have made the biggest difference to your day-to-day, what might that have been?
Oh, that's such a hard question. One thing I wish I could have said that would have made a difference. Honestly, I think it would just be present. I think at the beginning there is a lot of support. I think at the beginning people do clam around you and provide you that support. But people really being part of the journey, those are your people, those are the people who are there, the people who, come to the hospital or come to chemo or, actually are there, when you need them. They're far and few between, I would say. I think not everybody shows up the way you think that they might do. But being present, being part of that journey with someone, I think that is really all I think anybody needs and wants, and can mean, a huge amount to somebody going through cancer. So yeah, be present, I think is. Or don't be. I guess, if you can't be, don't be. But yeah, if you can, be present.
What does being present with someone who has finished cancer treatment look like for you?
When you're going through treatment, there's, people know to check in, or, even, they're there. But after treatment, understanding that just because treatment ends doesn't mean that your friend, your family member, your acquaintance, whatever it is back to normal, is back to being that same person they were before, because chances are they're not. There's no way you can go through such a big thing and not be changed in even some small way. So I think it's almost getting to know that person again, being curious about what that person is going through, trying to get to know the new person that they are, supporting them. So asking questions, being there in person, I think is huge.
I love this. I think it's really helpful. And I think for you, I can see that maybe it sounds quite obvious, but I think people need those steps, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Saying, ask questions.
Yeah.
It's actually, that's such a lovely idea, a lovely thing to have in your back pocket to take with you when you go and visit a friend who has finished cancer treatment. What 3 things might I be able to ask them? Or just being curious about them. Oh, actually, you've changed. Actually, how do you like spending your time now? What has changed for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your perspectives change, but your attitudes change. Even things for me, what I eat and drink are different, partly through side effects, but partly through, the fear of recurrence is, a big thing. It impacts kind of my day-to-day, everything really. And yeah, getting to know that, getting comfortable with that. I think also in a way, I guess, if you're the other person, you might have lost or feel like you've lost a friend in perhaps that time, and you almost want them back, to how they were, so that your relationship can go back. I think actually understanding that, your relationship has evolved, and you and the other person are in control of that relationship and what that looks like and how close, you want to be and things, but you have to take the steps, you have to spend the time together.
Yeah, you have to do the work, don't you?
You do, yeah.
So thinking about your life after treatment now, what is it like to be you?
It's a different life. I was a full-time working mom before I had cancer. My life was hectic, very, very fast paced, very like always rushing from one thing to another, whether it's meeting or nursery or school pickup or whatever it was. I was rushing around like a crazy person. My pace of life now is a lot slower, I'd say. A lot slower. Day to day, like I've in a period of my life where actually I'm very lucky from the outside. If you looked at my life, I live a very kind of, easygoing life. Today I dropped my kids off to school. I went to the gym and then I came here and then I'm going to do school pickup, dinner, usual kid stuff. I like from the outside, I live a very kind of like luxurious life in a way because I'm not working at the moment and I've been fortunate to have a break off work for kind of as long as I need. On the outside, I think my life looks pretty rosy and great, and it is. There are definitely lots of things that are amazing, but I didn't choose this life. I guess for me, like. I didn't choose to not suddenly be this fast-paced working mum. I loved working. I thrive off the kind of, adrenaline of things moving very, very quickly. So I'm still adjusting to that, I guess. I'm still sometimes grieving that life, sometimes, really embracing the new life. And I'm still trying to, find my feet of what my life looks like now. I love my kids, but being a stay-at-home mum was not really part of my life goals, and they're amazing and I love them, but I'm just going through this journey of trying to discover more about me and who I am and what I want and making my time count, I guess.
Yeah. And that takes time, doesn't it?
It does take time.
So what goes on in your head post-treatment that others might not be aware of?
I think probably the weight of almost every decision post-treatment. I think people probably wouldn't realize that, whether it's like picking up something to eat and I'm like, oh, does this have protein in it? Or like, I'm not eating any vegetables or, like my diet or whatever it is. Or I'm like, oh my gosh, does this have microplastics in it? And I'm, giving myself cancer again. So I think, everything from like how I spend my time or, what I eat. I'm not saying every decision is based on cancer, but, that fear of recurrence, that, whether it's like even just like managing, side effects. I had part of my bowel removed, which means, some things are tricky for me to eat. So, whether it's like picking a restaurant to eat at, or I really focused on food in this answer. I don't know why. I think it might be lunchtime.
Also, it affects your day to day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
These aren't, decisions you have to make on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Yeah, and I manage my energy more now, I think. And I refused to admit it for a long time. And I still don't think I have completely admitted it. But I think I do have less energy now than I did before. And in fact, straight after treatment, I would really pack my days in. I was so busy. And then every few weeks, I would just crash. And I'd say I wouldn't blame the treatment or cancer. I'd say, oh, I'm just under the weather or I'm not feeling well. I must have a cold or something. But actually, I kind of look back and I realize now, I just didn't have the same energy levels. And I was expecting myself to kind of, operate with the same energy levels. And then I wasn't. And then I was kind of burning out every couple of weeks where I just literally spend the day sort of on the sofa or felt like I was unable to move.
And how has your relationship with your body changed? We're talking about food, fatigue, energy levels.
I had a stoma, I had a colostomy, and then I had an ileostomy. So for a while, I had this organ on the outside of my body, which is so... At the time, I totally accepted it because, I was told the week before I had stage 4 cancer. So, it felt like, not such a big deal. And now I look back and I think, this organ, it was there, just sticking out of my body. You always think people lose weight during cancer. I actually gained weight quite a bit, whether it's steroids or I think before I was diagnosed, I was so tired all the time. I was just eating all the time. And eating sugar to kind of give myself energy to get through the day. I want to say I'm so proud of my body because it's gone through a lot. It's given me 2 kids. It's got me through, all this treatment. but I'm not quite there yet, I'd say. You know, I logically know that. I don't look at my body and feel that, you know, I have a lot of scars. I have, you know, I look different. I can, you know, look in the mirror and I see evidence of the cancer sort of everywhere. But that's where I'm trying to get to, at least. You know?
That's where you're trying to get to. So tell me, where are you at? What happens?
Sometimes I look in the mirror and I see all the scars and I'm like, I have moments where I'm like, that's just really like ugly. And I don't mean that in that it looks really ugly. Actually, my scars are not too bad, but it's that external evidence of cancer that I see, and I, you know, it's that kind of memory that I can never just wipe away. Do you know what I mean? Like, can't just rub it off and then be like, oh, look, you know, it's that memory. And I have other days where I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? These are kind of my war wounds. They, you know, otherwise there'd be no evidence of what I'd gone through in the last year, you know, like, so I can switch sort of between the two, I think, pretty quickly.
What helps you get into the preferred mindset there?
I think it's just the way I talk to myself in a way. I think if there's one thing I've sort of learned through treatment and life after cancer is that, like, you know, how you talk to yourself and what you tell yourself is just so crucial. You know, I do try and kind of stop negative thoughts, not necessarily stop them, but I like appreciate them, let them be, and then I try and give myself an alternative narrative. I've even like asked ChatGPT that, like, I'm feeling really rubbish about my body today, like, can you give me an alternate narrative to, you know, to frame it? So I try and quickly just reframe it. And, you know, and I think of my kids, like, you know, when I explain it to them, I don't think, oh, my scars are really ugly. Like, I think, yeah, these are mummy's like war wounds. I wear them with pride. You know, I think of how I explain it to them rather than, how I explain it to myself.
And this leads me on to challenges. So when things do feel challenging for you, what helps you?
You know, I was never a yoga or like a meditation person beforehand, but I learned to focus on like taking a deep breath and just exhaling really slowly. And I always saw that. I always see people on Instagram doing it, and I always sort of like put my nose off at it a little bit. But honestly, it's been one of the best things I've learned how to do. I wouldn't necessarily say when I started doing it, I found it that helpful. But even when my kids are like just irritating me and they're loud and they're noisy, you know, I find myself just taking a deep breath, and I've started to find that really, really helpful. And the other thing I think I have done through life after cancer is like constantly adjust my own expectations of myself as to where I am, you know, in that day or that week or that month. You know, I think, you know, some days I, you know, wake up and actually maybe I'm not feeling great or I'm feeling tired or whatever it is. And I don't try not to beat myself about it. I just, okay, like, this is where I'm at, like, and I adjust my expectations of what my day is going to look like for that and what good looks like to me. And so sometimes it's just finding the good in like the smallest thing. I have 2 young kids, so for me, like, a hot cup of coffee is, you know, nothing beats that. And so I make myself a hot cup of coffee and I drink it hot, not reheated. And I feel really happy in that moment with that very, you know, potentially very small thing. So I try and just adjust and calibrate to kind of where I am and how I'm feeling.
And it sounds in that moment you're very present.
Try to be, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I've found my things, I guess, that help me, whether it's like a hot cup of coffee or listening to music is big, like, or like moving my body, but without expectation of what I think that looks like. So like, I love going to the gym, I love exercising, but sometimes if it's just a walk for even like 10 minutes, that's okay. Like, okay, I haven't exercised in a big way, but the walk is enough. Like, that's enough for me.
Yeah, I do see and believe that our priorities do change. So the focus on smaller things, we just feel so much more gratitude towards them. Like you said, a hot cup of coffee in the sun, listening to a really good song, dancing around the kitchen, getting outside, the things that make us feel good.
Absolutely. And being able to appreciate those things, those small things, is, I have to say, the biggest gift of the last like year or two.
If someone's listening and they're thinking, oh my goodness, I feel exactly as you do, what would you want to say to them?
I would say, firstly, you're not alone, because clearly if you're, relating to what I'm saying, then I'm with you. Everything is a phase. Nothing lasts forever. However you're feeling, it doesn't last forever. So even on these like really dark days where everything just feels hopeless, the day will end, the sun will rise tomorrow, and it's a new opportunity to, for things to be better. But yeah, you're not alone, and yeah, like things will and do get better, and everything is temporary. I don't know what I'm going with this now.
I love that. The sun will rise again tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. Sure.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we come to an end, I would love to ask you a quick fire round.
Okay.
Okay, so short answers, 1 or 2 words if possible. I know it's quite hard to keep to.
Okay, I'll try.
So what did you expect life after cancer treatment to be like, and what was the reality?
Magical, grateful, adjustment period, I'd say, was for what it was actually like.
What surprised you the most about life after treatment, good or challenging?
The change in perspective that I have, which was amazing, but also the fatigue, which I didn't anticipate.
What's one thing you wish someone had told you about life post-treatment?
It will get better. Things will improve.
What's one thing no one tells you about life post-cancer treatment?
Cancer will still be a part of you, even though it's not present in your body.
What helped you the most after finishing cancer treatment?
Doing things for myself. Whether that's, exercise or breathing. Yeah.
Great answer. What do you wish someone had told you to expect?
That I would be a new person, with a new identity, and I'd need to spend some time finding out who that was.
What was it really like when cancer treatment ends?
Unnerving without the structure of treatment. Yeah, unnerving.
I love that move.
Yeah, it's like you're like in flex, like everything's in flex.
What's something people or someone said to you post-treatment that wasn't very helpful?
You must be so excited to get back to your life. Like what life? Like it's different now.
What could they have said instead?
Oh, I'm sure life looks a bit different now. How can I support you through that? Or how can I be there for you?
And if someone has just finished cancer treatment and they needed one small thing to do today to increase their mental well-being, what would you suggest?
Take a breath, learn to just, exhale slowly and stand out in the sunshine if you can. And if it's a sunny day, there's nothing quite like sunshine, I feel.
If you could send a message to your post-treatment self, what would you say?
Like, hold on, you will find yourself.
What do you wish healthcare teams or doctors understood about life after cancer?
I wish they understood that the journey doesn't end there for us. I wish they understood that there's more to it for us than just, great, you finished with treatment, off you go, see you later, we'll see you in 6 months. Actually, yeah, it's a journey.
What would you have liked them to say to you? Because we hear this very often, and I wonder what might have been helpful. Instead of them sending you off into the unknown, which is what it often feels like, what do you want to hear?
But it would be nice to have, just some helpful, you're not alone. Like if you are struggling post-cancer, even just some signposting to somewhere you can go, like, the Life After Cancer course, which is amazing. Or, but yeah, just that feeling of, you're not completely on your own straight away. When you're going through treatment, they become like the kind of sort of ship taking you to safety, and when you get to the shore, that ship leaves very, very quickly. But it would be like, okay, you're on land, but here are the people, your people, whilst you're on land, that are going to help you.
That's a brilliant way of looking at it.
Oh,
I love that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
Before you go, here's something you might want to reflect on this week. Is there something you've been thinking about or feeling that you haven't said out loud recently? And if it feels right, is there someone you could share it with? If you'd like a space to share it, you're always welcome to join one of our Life After Cancer groups and share it with others who have been through cancer treatment. Thank you for listening. If you'd like support or community, you can find free online workshops, expert sessions, peer groups, and 6-week programme at life-aftercancer.co.uk. If this episode was helpful, you can follow the podcast or leave a review. It helps others find these conversations, and you'll find support information in the show notes. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.